We're back. The time is now.
Good afternoon.
Hey.
It's me and the Mighty Win on this Thursday afternoon. Sorry, we're a little bit late. Again, I've been having issues getting on line, and I don't know what's happened now. Win, he's sat behind the desk. Look, I mean, he's got a new setup, being the we call him the reporter now. I think he looks very good. I am in front of the desk, not quite as advanced as the Mighty, but we'll see how we get on for the rest of the week. Once I know how to work this blooming system, I'll probably be better. So anyway, let's get on with the show, and then we'll try and bring you some goss as we go through. Welcome to everybody watching across all of the platforms. Thanks to everybody that works in the background. Don't forget, people out there in viewerland, please hit that like button for us. Subscribe, it's totally free. Hit the bell for future content. We do loads of content. So if you hit the bell, you'll get notifications for it. If you want to help us grow and support the channel, then you can become a member. 2 different levels to choose from. You choose whatever suits your content. If you've got a question for me or the Mighty, then try and put a Q in front of it. Not guaranteed to be mentioned, by the way, because we have lots of chat now going on. So if you want to guarantee it, then use the $sign. Throw us a Talk TV super chat, and that will guarantee that message read out. And anybody that becomes a member during the show, or any of our lovely members that gift them as we go through the show, will be highlighted and thanked as we go. So, how are you this Thursday?
Thank you to everybody who's got us to 8,000 members.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now we know what the next target is, 10,000, and the only way we'll get to 10,000 is by hitting the likes, hitting the shares, hitting the subscribes, getting involved in the chat, and that helps spread the word of NUFC TV a bit further.
Yeah, it does.
All you lovely Toon fans.
I mean, like I say, it's been a bit of an amazing ride for us over the last few months. And I must admit, I have similar thoughts to Win there. It's been an amazing gesture from you guys out there in viewerland to come on board and support us. So, yeah, like I say, mirror what Win's just said there. Thank you so much for all your support.
We do not take it for granted.
Absolutely not. We know, like I say, it's a big commitment from you guys to get involved, and like I say, you know, there's lots of people we see now in the chat that join us on a regular basis. So, and there's lots of new names coming on board as well. So again, thank you all so much. Great news last night for the lads, the under-21s. Like I say, some interesting performers. I did mention it right at the end of last night's show. And if you hadn't seen or haven't had a chance to have a look at last night's show, we did like a two-hour special, if you like, on players of yesteryear that entertained us individually. And it was quite a lovely show, if I'm honest with you. Everybody had their favourites. Some in the chat were obviously throwing the curveball. But it was a lovely show. I've watched it again. I watched it while the missus was in bed asleep. I put the TV on and had my headphones on, and I just watched it with a smile on my face because some of the names that people were bringing up, they're just lovely times, aren't they? And I must admit, we've had quite a lot of, let's say, negativity when it comes to the academy. And this season, I must admit, you know, it looked like we were on a bit of a trajectory. And we've had some new coaches come into the academy. And it didn't look like it was going their way. I mean, you know, they're towards the bottom of the Premier League 2. Results weren't really going for them. But against Boston last night, they looked comfortable on the ball. I mean, Boston in the second half put it at them. You know, they scored a cracking goal, 22 yards out into the top left bin, if you like. I mean, it was a great goal. And they did put the lads under a bit of pressure. But there was a few players on that field that I think Eddie Howe can utilise going forward. and give more experience, probably more than anything else. And like I say, the standout performer from me was Sue Park. He excited me in pre-season. I thought it was a shame we didn't really get a chance to see him in any games once the season started. But last night, he looked on fire, if I'm honest with you. Great ball through for one of Neves' hat-trick goals through the middle. Another player that really shone, apart from obviously Neves, who got the hat-trick, he come out with player of the match. But I thought Munda had a really good game in the centre midfield. Again, he's a solid looking midfielder, got nice feet, plays simple, plays what he sees, doesn't put players under too much pressure from the pass. And I think he looked good. And again, it was the really first time I've had a chance to have a look at Pivas since he's back off his loan deal. And he looked good, right side of centre-back. And he was one of the lads that I was saying that, he can play in several roles. So it was a great watch just before we went live on air. And I must admit the lads did really, really well. So well done
And
to
Park
everybody.
Soo-sung had a good game as well.
Well, that's what I said. I'll keep saying Sue Park, but it's Park Soo-sung. It is Sue Park. Park Soo. Yeah, one
Well, they're all called Park over there. Well, lots and lots of them all.
Lots and lots of. That was his twin brother that played. Yeah, that's what I said. For me, he was man of the match, mate. And like I say, sure, Neves nicked it because he got the hat-trick. But he was an absolute worlder yesterday. He played superbly well. Well, I was going to say something. Obviously, there's been talk now from Keith Downey regarding Wissa. He did a little bit of a chat on YouTube yesterday saying about Wissa's injury. It's obviously going to be an extended recovery rather than the rumours that were going around about the ACL. It's definitely not an ACL. But it has obviously prolonged his return. They reckon now between 8 to 10 weeks. Now, originally it was 6 to 8 weeks. Rumours around the club were saying 5 to 6 weeks. Then it went to 6 to 8 weeks. Now we know it's 8 to 10 weeks. Now, on that score, I'm going to say 10 to 12 weeks because it's obviously a bit more of a severe injury than we're expecting. And unfortunately, knee injuries...
Basically, after AFCON.
Yeah. I don't know whether there's a reasoning behind that. I was going to ask you a question. Right now, lots of rumours now, and there's lots of social media reports are now coming to the conclusion.
Pinch of salt, pinch of salt.
Yeah, now coming to the conclusion that Wentz, that's two words rolled into one. That's typical Yam Yam. When you get a player who's obviously fallen out with the club, and I'm talking about the Rat, and I don't want to go on a bit too much about it, but now it seems as though once Eddie Howe had come to the conclusion that he wasn't staying at Newcastle, the tactic was to delay transfer, according to the rumours. So when he goes to Liverpool, that he was going to go totally unfit, playing under his own steam, and that seems to have been what people are saying, a tactic that was issued by Eddie Howe. Not sure whether I agree with it, if I'm honest with you. I think people are just putting two and two together and coming up with a different number. But what's your thoughts on that, mate? Because, like I say, we've seen the Rat at Liverpool. He certainly looks totally out of touch, totally out of form. I mean, I don't care who you are, training on your own doesn't ever get the best out of you. If anything, it makes a real negative impact on your game. And I think we've seen that. But I don't know whether these rumours have any notes behind them, to be fair.
Put it this way, if they have, and as I say, I am always very sceptical about anything that appears on social media and not from a bona fide card-carrying journalist, if you like. But it makes perfect sense to me. Absolute perfect sense. If you certainly delay it long enough that you can't play against us, that's the first thing, which you would have done if it had gone through on, when they first put that bid in, or if they'd come back if they'd been given encouragement then, because all of the reports at the time were saying the reason they didn't come back and the reason they went and got Ekitike was because, they were pretty sure in their own minds that we weren't going to sell, that we're going to hang on to him regardless. Then, was it before that, after that, when this decision was arrived at? So, like I say, once it was arrived at, absolutely do nothing at all, as far as I'm concerned, to enhance what would be his performances for a rival. And I know everybody will say we are not rivals, whatever. You know where I'm going to. So I'm quite happy. I don't think there's anything wrong in it. You could argue after what he's done for the club. Won our first trophy, all this nonsense. Nah. If he's going, he's going. Like I said, when it first arose, I said, listen, if he wants to go, good riddance. Any player who doesn't want to play for the shirt at Newcastle, good riddance. And I mean anybody, literally.
I agree with you.
By all means, work as hard as you can to persuade whoever that player may be to change their minds. But once you become pretty certain that they've made their minds up, you're probably wasting your time.
Yeah, there's
I can think of a better expression.
Yeah, but me too.
But we are past the watershed.
Yeah, we've got to be careful what we say. A couple of interesting reports come out this morning. One was on Sandro Tonali, and again, I go by very limited response when I look at some of these Chronicle reports. If I say, again, it's the international break, and I know there's a lot of people there just want clickbait stuff, but this rumour has been going on quite a bit now about the Sandro Tonali dropping telling comments on Newcastle's future after agent meeting. It's possible, according to, that was the headlines in the Chronicle. And again, just going off the first paragraph, Sandro Tonali has spoken about his future with Newcastle United, failing to rule out a return to Italy in future, despite being content at St James's Park under Eddie Howe at present. Now, you guys were talking about it the other day. He's gone over there on international duty. He's very close to his hometown. He's obviously gone back to Milan to have a chat with his, past comrades, if you like, and mates. And it's funny, isn't it? Because whenever you see a player do this, the first thought in anybody's mindset is he unhappy? Does he not want to play for Newcastle anymore? But if you was to go back to one of your old working areas to visit your mates, do you think you'd get the same headlines? Because I know I wouldn't. I've walked into many NHS establishment, and everybody's gone, I hope he doesn't ask for a job.
With all due respect, you are not a well wanted.
Well, that's true.
Surgeon, which every hospital in the world wants, including the one in Newcastle that you happen to go back to, and your bosses are there. That ain't going to happen, Gary. Sorry
absolutely.
to give you the bad news.
Yeah, don't baby bubble too much.
But so let's assume that it's true, and let's assume that he said in an interview, I wouldn't rule out coming back to Italy. Well, of course he wouldn't. He wouldn't rule out going to Real Madrid either. If they said, would you rule out going to Real? He said, no, I wouldn't rule that out either, because football, strange things happen.
Yeah.
Or perhaps, expected things happen. So I just think it's people creating mischief. trying to stir up discontent where there is none. All I've ever heard from, maybe it's because that's all I want to hear. People can have that argument, but all I ever hear is that he's very, very happy here, and even his missus is now.
Yeah, well, that's what they were saying. The fact that he's very content.
Roy was saying he was in the back page, which is the Newcastle memorabilia shop and program shop. Visit it if you can, because it's a fun. I could spend all day in there. But Tonali and his missus were both in there and chatting away and very happy, and he bought some gear and chatting on with the staff and that. So pinch of salt, as I say.
I am definitely in that as Tom Spence has put in the chat there. Yeah, we need to get that contract sorted, don't we? There's a few of them now that are coming up to a couple of years left, and that's absolutely spot on by Kev Bell there. It's rumor mill again. It's papers that need clickbait, isn't it?
Yeah, click, 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 click.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve saying Gary don't get sucked in. Listen, look, that's why I've put it on. I'm not getting sucked into by any means. It just makes me laugh at the amount of information that the journos want us to read.
And there's Pokey, straight to the point as usual with Pokey. Where I got it, I've just seen it come up.
At the bottom there, that one.
That's it there. For God's sake, he's Italian and an Italian international. He's not going to say, I'm not going back to Italy.
No, exactly. And that's why I said, he's going back to visit family and friends. I mean, crikey. He's going to be seen in a lot of establishments that have obviously very fond memories. And it's, what's the difference with when Tino come back to watch us the other week, when we needed a big push against Barcelona, he was seen across many places in and around Newcastle city centre. So, like I said, the players do that. It's not beyond all recognition. The other one that came out yesterday was the conversation of Simon Jordan that I had on Talk Sport, where he literally bit his lip a little bit and more or less was made to look a fool regarding the Amanda Staveley and the NUFC takeover. Deader than a dead thing on dead day or something.
Deader than a dead duck in dead land.
That's the one, yeah. I've never heard that one before, and it did make me titter. But there was obviously a couple of things that came out of that. And apparently he was talking about the information that he had received from behind the scenes regarding the BN Sports saga, where obviously PIF were held to some ransom, if you like, about the monies that were being owed for that. And that's why he said he didn't think the takeover was going to happen because of the information that he was led to believe. The Premier League obviously being the Premier League, and PIF allowing BN Sports to be streamed because there was no laws to stop it. Illegally, yeah. He turned round and, as he's took humble pie, if you like, and held his hand up and did nothing but praise Amanda Staveley, because obviously she came on to Talk Sport via phone and was having a bit of a rant and a rave with Simon at the time. And she said, it doesn't matter what you believe, this is what I'm going to do. And bless her.
Did it.
And absolutely did it.
Yahoo! Happy 4th anniversary.
Indeed. And that's the reasons why I've brought that up, actually, because like I say, and fair play to Simon Jordan, because he like I say, I know there's a lot of people that don't like Simon Jordan, but I actually like the lad because when he's wrong, he'll admit he's wrong. You know what I mean? As much as he states the sometimes bloody obvious, I do think it's like I say, when he's not right, he'll admit that he was totally misled going forward. Another little funny information that came out was the other jibe about Voltemada. Don't know whether you've read this one, Win.
All I've read about Walter Mata is that he's now back to full training with Germany.
Yeah. Yeah, again, this is Chronicle driven. Newcastle United's Nick Voltemada transfer gets more jibes from Germany, put in a straitjacket, in speech marks. Nick Voltemada's 69 million transfer to Newcastle has grabbed more headlines in Germany, despite his positive start.
It's a bit of a rat syndrome in Germany at the minute, because of course it's Bayern that drive the publicity machine there, and it's all Bayern spokespeople who are doing the jibing, shall we say?
Yeah, but do you not? I mean, it is just sour grapes, isn't it? Like you say,
Well, I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, they called us, labelled us idiots for paying such a high price for him. Even though, like I say, he's probably one of the top performers. If you look at all the summer transfer windows for a striker, a lot of the players, obviously, that we went for before him have also, not really hit the ground running as good as Nick has done. Big Nick has done when it comes to actually playing in the Premier League. He's actually, he's surpassed my expectations, if I'm honest with you. I thought he would have had a slower build-up to adapting to not only Newcastle style of football, because obviously we have been working alongside the Rat for a long time now, and it's very difficult to throw a different style of player in there. But I think he's actually brought a different element to Newcastle's build-up.
Yeah, but he's had to, hasn't he?
Well, he's got to try and play to his strengths. I mean, when we come to the players that shone and didn't shine as much in a little bit, when it comes to the players that have been bought in post-takeover, trying to marry that with last night's show, we can see a couple of players that were bought in to do exactly that just didn't do it. It's an interesting one. But I just can't, like I say, I can't understand why these guys are continuing to jibe when, obviously, by all accounts, you listen to a lot of reporters out there, they believe Voltemada, a lot of ex-professionals, this isn't just people that haven't played the game, like journos, they believe that Voltemada is going to go on to big and better things at Newcastle. So you have to sometimes take what everybody says with a pinch of salt. I understand that, but you also understand that when you've played a game at a decent level, you also see a player. But Germany goes on. It was clear early on that he had what it takes to play in the Bundesliga. But anyone who thought he would move for so much money now needs to be put in a straitjacket. It can always happen that something isn't right at a given moment, or that something is misjudged. That happened to me too. And that was the Thomas Schaff from Werder Bremen was talking about, all the information that go there, despite the constant derision. Oh, I tell you. In Germany, Voltemada was made a tremendous start in his Newcastle career, scoring 4 goals in 7 appearances, including scoring in in each of his first 3 Premier League home games. That is a feat that only been matched by club legend Alan Shearer and Les Ferdinand. And Voltemada has already captured the hearts of club supporters. And that is, absolutely spot on, isn't it?
Kevin's saying total sour grapes. People tend
absolutely.
only to talk about the things they care about or feel something for. They lost out and they're annoyed and are talking about it. And Jody Dan is saying, and the fact that Voltemada has scored with 2 headers, which are not his greatest strength, just shows that we ain't seen nothing yet. Such a great start.
Yeah,
which is absolutely true, because that was when we signed him, and bear in mind I'd been watching him for a long time before that. Everybody was saying, put the cross in, and I just calmed everybody down, said, wait a minute, that's not his strength, because 34, I think, Bundesliga goals, only 36 and only 4 with his head.
Yeah.
So that isn't his party. His footwork is the party piece. I mean, his footwork work at times is sensational.
Absolutely. It looks like Newcastle face a 10-year wait when it comes to the stadium. I don't know whether you've, again, this is all the Chronicle jibes. Newcastle United face 10-year stadium wait, ground sharing options and capacity truth. According to the Chronicle, the long wait for a stadium solution continues as Newcastle United face longer stays at St James's Park, which I'm sure to some won't be a problem. Newcastle United are desperate for some answers on what happens next to St James's Park and the stadium development concerns. Almost 2 years on since supporters were given a survey to fill out to form the basis of the feasibility study, there have been no concrete plans released on either St James's being redeveloped or moving to a new stadium. It is now 11 months ago since the club COO, Brad Miller, asked for a show of hands at the club's stack fan zone for a supporters meeting in the shadow of the Gallagher End. Back then, albeit with a crowd of around 3,000 fans, it seemed that the majority favoured a move to a new stadium. That night, Darren Eales, the CEO at the time, said that option would lead to more seats if Newcastle did make an emotional move away from St James's. But since then, despite the suggestion of the update in early 25, there has been precious little in terms of updates and communication coming from the club. So what they're asking now is the fact that this could roll on to be a few more years down the road before you get any conclusion of what happens. And then, I say, a couple of paragraphs down, it goes, we know what a transformed St James's Park would give us, and we now have a significant amount of data and feedback on our stadium footprint and surrounding area. So we are several steps ahead. But obviously there's still quite a lot to go into.
Well, we know nothing's going to happen before 2028, basically.
Well, because of the
Euros and
yeah, and I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? I mean,
I think it took 5 years in total from proper original planning permission until bums on seats for the Emirates, and about the same time for Tottenham Hotspur. So it ain't going to happen overnight. The only beauty about moving into a new stadium is that you can get on with that whilst St James's Park, as it stands, is still what it is. And someone was telling me, by the way, who was it? They got it. Oh, it might have been Roy. Roy was in level 7 with the Qatari Mags.
Yeah.
On Sunday, in what were formerly the family enclosure seats.
Right.
Because if you remember, Mike Ashley expanded massively when people stopped going. He expanded the family enclosure massively, and gradually, obviously, all the kids that bought those seats are growing up and becoming adults. And when you become an adult, you can't sit in the family enclosure. Also, people elsewhere in the stadium shift off this mortal coil or move away or, rescind their season ticket for whatever reason. So, historically, when you've moved from the family enclosure, you've been moved to another area of the stadium. That appears not to be happening now. The family enclosure tickets are now being sold as full tickets. And we had a bit of a talk about that, but in reality, outside of football, you know, what the stadium, the revenue that the stadium can generate outside of football, that is important because that's additional revenue to what we're getting now. But in terms of revenue earned by bums on seats, even for Man United, Tottenham, Arsenal, the percentage of the revenue that they make from bums on seats in the ground, I mean, it's not negligible because you're talking hundreds of millions, but in comparison to what their overall, whereas at one time, you know, bums on seats was probably, you know, 80%, 90% of your revenue. Now it's 5%, 10%, tops 15% of the revenue that you're making. All the rest is television money and commercial sponsorship, commercial deals, which is where we need to build it up. You know, getting an extra 100 quid, you know, even 500 quid a season for a seat.
Yeah.
Is in the great scheme of things.
Yeah, the bigger,
it's
the wider
neither
world.
here nor there.
Yeah, exactly. Nicky Milliken has come in with a bit of a question, something that I can't really answer, if I'm honest with you. Why are Saudi buying Man U? And I think it's Saudi as a big club. It's nothing to do with PIF, I believe. And if you read the story, the headlines, which I glanced at, it seems as though there's a bit of talk that, and again, Man United aren't aware of the Saudi intention to buy the club, but don't rule out secret talks, which makes me laugh. And again, it's speculation about Turkey Al Sheikh raising an intriguing prospect of a fresh takeover bid by claiming on Wednesday night that United are in advanced talks to sell the club. But again, I've not heard it from, usually the first people on this type of thing is Sky Sports, and I've not heard anything come up. So I don't really know how much truth is behind it. But it certainly wouldn't surprise me. Because obviously Al Sheikh is the head of General Entertainment Authority, responsible for bringing some of the world's highest profile sports events to Saudi Arabia. He's understood to be in talks with the club over a potential friendly game during the Riyadh season.
I had heard that they were interested in buying Sunderland.
Well, there you go. I mean, obviously they want to get involved in the Premier League. And like I say, he's certainly involved in a lot of the sports stuff that goes on in Saudi. So watch this space. That's all I can say. Apart from that, I don't really know what is happening. But like I say, it doesn't say they're not in talks or secret talks behind closed doors. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Glazers do.
Very difficult to prove a negative.
Absolutely. Indeed it is. And that is really it. There's not, like I say, there's not really a great deal of information out there. I obviously said yesterday about the cash injection that was already put in via PIF again to obviously help out with the running costs of the club. Another 111 million, I think it is, that they've injected. Tottenham Hotspur majority shareholders have announced they have pumped in a fresh 100 million cash injection. Amanda Staveley at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium again was seen. So again, doesn't rule out Amanda's interest in taking a portion of Tottenham Hotspur, even though apparently she can't bid. Her company can't bid unless somebody else bids first. So obviously she's waiting in the background. But do you think this 111 million, according to what the Chronicle have said, is to inject money in readiness for the January transfer window? I thought we'd have been
What are we talking about? Because I'm not sure which one you're talking about. You're talking about 110 million into Spurs, or the fact that last week, I think it was reported that there'd been one new share issued for Newcastle and that was 110 million or thereabouts. As I
Yeah, it
seem to
was
recall.
something like that, was it? 111 million or something like that.
So
That
you're
was
talking about for
pumped in.
Newcastle,
For Newcastle,
not for
not Tottenham.
Spurs,
No, that was like I say, that was just another headline that the Chronicle had thrown up about the Amanda Stavely interest.
right? So with regard to the money they put, I'm not so sure that I think it's specifically for the January transfer window. I don't think we need it.
Well, we
'Cause
surely we'd be using Isaacs.
exactly. So we've got that, which it's not 130 million. Don't forget, because he still had, with the amortization, he was still, I think, about 30 or 40 million on our books. I would need to check that out, but something like that, because he had 2 years left to run of a 5-year deal. So, yeah. But I think it's probably more to do with general running costs or whatever.
Yeah, that's what they said. It was to do with the day-to-day running of the club, as well as supporting the January transfer window. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's an interesting look. Is it the fact that we haven't been given the money?
Well, 110 million's a lot of money for
for
general running costs. So
Yeah,
it could be
absolutely.
some, but I don't know why put it in now. Why not put it in when needed, if required? Money's money. Money earns money, and if you're putting it in somewhere, it's not earning money elsewhere.
Yeah.
But
Obviously, I just want to shout out there. If anybody that's interested, we are going to be doing the England watch along tonight. We're on at 7:15. I can see Ian's already going to be watching Scotland, so good luck, Ian. So anybody that wants to join me and the mighty, obviously singing all England songs tonight, not waving the
have our
flags
St.
outside.
George's shirt on and our St.
Absolutely.
George's hat.
And
Proudly.
Indeed. So yeah, we'll be on at about 7:15 tonight, like I say, for the live watch along. So if you're free and ready, come and join us there. Yeah, you've just said about Voltemade returns to full training. I've just seen that today ahead of Germany's clash with Luxembourg. So he seems to have recovered quite quickly from his flu-like condition. Even though it's like I say, for me, I seem to have had this bloody cold now for over a week, and I can't get rid of it. What is your thoughts then on the internationals? Do you think Byrne will start tonight? Do you think Gordon has a chance of starting?
I've got no idea. I can't read Tuchel's mind, but if you are, who's been playing well? Which English players have been playing well on the left wing this season? And
Rashford looked promising.
Well, yeah, there you go. You see, so that there's a possibility.
Yeah, obviously Eze looks as though he's playing obviously well at the minute, and like I say, against us he was outstanding.
He came on last time, didn't he? So
yeah, will he start in the 10 with the likes of Elliot Anderson sitting deeper with Rice? It's going to be an interesting watch against Wales. I must admit, it's been many a day since I've missed the home internationals. I used to love the home internationals when they were part and parcel of the, so-called international group. Doesn't happen very often now, does it? Where we watch.
Well, back in the day, of course, Scotland in particular was always a fantastic fixture, but that was because Scotland at the time had virtually a whole squad.
Yeah.
That were playing in the English First Division.
Yeah.
So, all of the players were household names. Now, I would struggle to, name who would be starting for Scotland during these international breaks. Ryan Fraser might be.
Yeah, Kev Bell saying we've only got 6 or 7 games before the World Cup. We should be playing our strongest team now. Get them ready and playing together to understand tactics and how we're going to play next summer.
Oh, well, if that's the case, he should definitely play Burn.
Love it. Love it. Will he start Burn at left back? That's the big question, says Bowken. Yeah, interesting. Right there, let's go on to obviously our favoured subject of today, and that is
just before that. Just before we go on to the post-takeover, there was a couple of players who were mentioned in the all-time list last night, and that was you. You actually mentioned Terry Hibbert for the left
I love
wing.
Terry.
And I mentioned, obviously, Super Mac for the striker. So I came across a little clip concerning the two of them. So let's have a look at this. Make sure you tell me you
Of
can
his
hear
career, Hibbert's rebellious nature became legendary. He and McDonald were both 20-a-day men, smokers. At half-time, they were the first down the tunnel, lighting up in the dressing room. McDonald later recalled that Hibbert enjoyed a few pints and a game of dominoes midweek, yet still performed tirelessly on Saturday. He was up and down that line all match. His lifestyle would have been unthinkable for modern athletes. Coach Keith Birkinshaw hated the smoking. After countless ignored warnings, he convinced manager Joe Harvey to ban it. A sign went up above the dressing room door. No smoking in the dressing room. Joe Harvey, manager. The very next game, a Wednesday night fixture, Hibbert and McDonald sparked up at half-time like nothing had changed. Birkinshaw exploded. He demanded they put out the filthy tabs. The two players refused. They threatened to leave the club if they couldn't have a cigarette. The situation turned into a full-blown crisis. Then Joe Harvey walked in, cup of tea in hand. The team was winning 2-0. Harvey knew what mattered. He grabbed a felt-tip pen and changed the sign. It now read, "No smoking in the dressing room. Joe Harvey, manager, except Terry Hibbert and Malcolm McDonald." This wasn't poor discipline. It was brilliant man management. Harvey understood that keeping his two stars happy was more important than enforcing a pointless rule. He respected their quirks. He knew that getting the best out of them meant letting them be themselves. His laid-back approach and exceptional people skills allowed him to handle difficult personalities. Harvey sometimes calmed Hibbert, the biggest moaner at the club, with a simple box of cigarettes. He had warned his squad when signing Hibbert. "Mind he'll cause trouble in an empty house," but Harvey handled him perfectly.
There we go.
Fabulous. Oh, love it. Back in the days where I always say football was football, where lads can take a knock and give it as well. You know what? I do sometimes scrunch my brow. Jesus. I need to start getting rid of my teeth. When I look at some of these challenges today where they roll forever and more, and I look back on the days of the 70s and 80s where a challenge was a challenge.
Chopper Harris.
Phew.
Norman Bates your legs.
I'm going to say, absolutely.
Big John McNamee got a mention yesterday in the best centre-back.
Yeah, it's mental.
Swinging off the crossbar at the Roker end.
Yeah, absolutely mental. Right then, let's get back into the post-takeover team.
Well, one of them's dead easy.
Well,
the best coach post-takeover. I'm going to go for Steve Bruce.
Yeah. For these couple of months. Oh, bless you. No, I mean, I must admit, like I say, since Eddie's come on board, I mean, you guys were, absolutely right in naming him as being the coach that has blew your frock up, if you like, because, like I say, he has been excellent in his tenure for 4 years, getting us to 2 Champions Leagues, potentially should have been 3, with a European slot, if other results had gone for us. And obviously silverware on the table after 4 years. I mean, again, you think of, we look at Amanda Staveley's comments when the takeover commenced. I think there was a lot of adrenaline.
Skepticism.
Yeah, adrenaline, I'm going to say, because obviously
yeah.
talking about winning the Premier League, 5 years, she said. I think that was always going to be, a lot to ask. But in the 4 years that they've done, they've certainly had this opportunity to bring in some amazing players. And we're going to look at what I believe has been my standout players. And there's probably going to be a couple of stranger ones in there. And obviously, Wynn's going to have his point of view. And please, guys in the chat, get on board with this. The people that you believe. We're only going to do five. 5 best, 5 worst players. And I'm sure we've got a list. What is a yam yam? Some kind of Greg's cake, says Alan McMurtry. Well, a yam yam is a lad from the Black Country. So we don't say you, we say yam. Yam going there, yam going here, So we were nicknamed bloody many years ago as yam yams. Hence my name is a Geordie Yam Yam, because I was born up there, but obviously brought up down here. And that's why I've combined the two. So yeah, I am a Black Country man, not a Brummie. Like I say, that to me is scalding. And when you put the two of us together, the dialect is massively different. Even though to the naked ear, it doesn't sound that way. And I can't remember who was in the chat the other day. He's the first one to ask me if I was from Walsall, which is obviously where I was brought up. So yeah, interesting. So we're going to go. We're not going to go with coach, because obviously, we're just going to go with 5 players, and it doesn't have to be in any particular order. So, who is your number
does it
one?
Not? Does
no,
it not? Does it
doesn't
not?
have to be in any order. You can go from the best that you believe has come into the club, which in any order. It doesn't really matter. So,
well, I've got mine in order. And it might surprise some people, but my number one is Trips. Because he, if you like, opened the floodgates. Current international, just won La Liga, and chose to come and join Newcastle when we were second bottom of the Prem, without a win. And I think if we hadn't signed him, it would have been very, very difficult to sign anyone else. So Trips for me was the catalyst in getting it as quickly as it's happened, given the circumstances that we ultimately found ourselves in with PSO, etc. So I've got Trips at the top. I have got Bruno at number 2. Oh, hang on. We can't hear you.
there you go. Have you got, am I back? Woo!
You're back, but I couldn't hear anything you were saying prior to that.
Apologies.
After I mentioned Trips.
I was having a little bit of a moment with my froggy throat. Kev Bella's put top 3 post-takeover, Trippier, Byrne and Bruno. And I think that'll be in a lot of people's lists as well. A loaf of black cowboys, says Joe Linton. He's saying that I've lost more weight. I haven't.
What I'm saying is I've put them in order, and I've got Trips first, Bruno second. So everybody everybody would think I'll be going for my pal, but no. Bruno, the way he's embraced, everything about the Toon. And we know what happens when players do that. We've had them in the past, I'm talking about non-Geordies who've come in and really got, I keep on using that word, do they get what being at the Toon means to the city, to the region, to the very soul of the place. And Bruno, I honestly believe I don't think there's any pretense about it. I don't think it's an act, a charade, as a lot of people say. Oh, all players do, kiss the badge, I honestly believe that Bruno does get it, and I think he's quite chuffed that his two sons are Geordies and not Brazilian. As patriotic as he may be, I don't think he's got any qualms about them being born in Newcastle. So Bruno number 2 for me. Is Dan Burn going third? No.
It's an
Tonali.
interesting. Yeah.
Tonali for me. If he does it for another 4, 5, 6 years here, he'd probably go to the top of the tree, because I've never seen a midfielder like him. Never seen a midfielder like him. When I went to Milan for the Champions League game, and he came onto the pitch in a black and white shirt, the reception he got from the San Siro was incredible. And I thought, wow, this must, because I hadn't seen it at that stage. I still wasn't fully convinced about him. But I said, he's obviously got something. The reception he's getting here, it was like, the return of the king. It was superb. So I thought, this kid, and he's just went on to prove that since his ban. Thank God he got the ban, because I honestly, I cannot imagine again, I'm absolutely convinced that AC Milan knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Which is why
I can't understand why they sold him. Yeah, without.
Well, that was why, because they knew he was going to be banned for a year. And given his age at the time and so on and so forth, they probably thought, we'll be able to sell him and get him back. With them being of the stature of club that they are. But yeah, Tonali is third for me. And then my man, Big Dan Burn. What a servant he has been to the club in all respects. 12 million quid. I mean, for nothing, when you consider now what he's done for us. And he's got his critics when he plays left back, but I'm not one of them. Is there better left backs? Of course there is, but you'll never get the commitment that you get from him. And fifth, I'm going for Livramento. It's a crying shame that he's just got the injury he's got, because he was really just starting to prove his worth. And the fact that you had Man City coming in for him kind of proves that to me. So that's the 5. And people are saying I'm leaving the rat out because of the summer antics. Not at all. No. If the rat was there, it'd certainly be in the next. I would still put. Actually, I would probably put the rat in front of, because the honourable mentions I've got here are Gordon and Lewis Hall. So, to be fair, you would have to put the rat in front of them. But he doesn't come close to me to any of the others.
Yeah, well, and that's an interesting point, because I've gone and there's a couple of lads that have mentioned it in the chat already. Like Alan McMurtry there about Tonali. Tonali has been absolutely fantastic. And as Kev Bella said there, it's very hard to judge Tonali because you've only really seen him for 2 seasons out of the 4. And like I say, 12 to 15 months, as Kev Bella said there, isn't really. I mean, yeah, he has been absolutely instrumental, but he wasn't there at the time when we needed to stay up, when we needed a team to start getting us somewhere. And obviously, it wasn't until the January where we started to see results going our way. And from that moment on, finishing 11th in the first season of Eddie Howe's tenure, the team that he put together with those few bodies, my favourites, definitely, like I say, Bruno joined from Lyon January 22 for 35 million. I think with all the add-ons, I think it worked out at 42 million in the end we paid for it. But when you look at what he's done for the club and continues to do regarding the bigger picture of the club, and for me, it's his stronger values. It's the way he talks about the club, how he speaks to the press about the club, how he speaks to the press about the fans and the locality. Him being from Brazil makes the Northeast shine like a sunny day in Rio de Janeiro. And I think, for me, that type of passion comes twofold. Talk about the midfield engine. He's a very technical player. He hasn't got the pace, unfortunately, but he's very composed, great both at attack and sometimes in defensive transitions, but he doesn't get us in trouble. Frequently one of the best performers for Newcastle. Very rarely does he have a poor game. He has the odd poor game, but it's very rare where you see him have, back-to-back poor games. And under, like the situation what he was signed for, I think he's been massive contributory, not only towards our safety in the Premier League, but also going on to be Champions League contenders, if you want to say the word, because with his guidance now as captain, and again, I was one of his main critics because I said, sometimes you need a mouth as your captain, but I think he utilises the rest of the crew, your Dan Burns, your Trippiers, to do that, and I think he just carries on with his game and he tries to get the best out of everybody through influence of what he does with the ball. My second one, again, going back to the good old days of Kieran Trippier, you're absolutely right. When he come from Atletico Madrid, again, January 22, big match experience, attacking output from that right-hand side, from a right-back position. Some of his crosses, his assists were outstanding.
Top big chance creator in the Prem that season.
Yeah, absolutely. Both in attack and defence. Free kicks. I remember that goal against Man City in the right bin. Fantastic at the time. And again, he's also been a role model on the field of play, if you like, supporting the captain's role. Whoever's got the captain's armband of the day, he has been that voice that has been, I think, missed at times, especially when he wasn't there through injury. My third one, and again, I have to go for it, is the Rat, Alexander Isak. And again, he has his critics, but when you look at the money that we spent for him, 63 million from Real Sociedad in 22. When he was fit and scoring goals, he brought a different element to our attack. And we always knew that with him up front, again, the only thing that he did better than Alan Shearer was to score back-to-back 20 goals in the Premier League. And so you could tell what a tall feat that was. So for me, he helped Newcastle compete at a higher level. And obviously, twofold, Newcastle helped him achieve a higher value significantly due to good performances. So there's good and bad with Isak, because obviously he was too easy to go missing at times. But without his goal-scoring contribution, I don't think we'd be playing at the level that we are doing on a regular basis now. My fourth one is Sven Botman. Again, I look at, you were saying about players that have come into it with a price tag. Again, signed from Lille for 30 to 35 million, I think it was, somewhere around that. very strong in defence, calm, good in the air. He's got a great ball playing ability. He's got a great composure, and he's got this sometimes ability to play without going man to man. He just seems to know where the dangers are at times. Again, unfortunately, with Sven, injuries have set him back a hell of a lot over the last 18 months. And I'm hoping, that's behind him now. And I think he can get back to where the type of player that we signed at the start, because I think he's got a massive quality when it comes to, the people around. And as you can tell by my team, I often go with the spine of the team. So I have to put Nick Pope in. And the reasons why I've put Nick Pope in above Sandro Tonali in my top 5, you have to have somebody who's reliable, and for what we paid for him. And again, I'll go on squad cost, £10 million, I think it was, somewhere like that, from Burnley. Not a major expense. He provided reliability in goal. He's a great shot stopper, not great with his feet, we know that, but he commands his area really well. And he seemed to, with him coming in, I think what we got there was a lot more confidence in the back line. He seemed to give the defence a little bit more assurance. And obviously, you've got to say, we had the best defence for one season in the Premier League, and that has to go with a mention. And I also have to give honourable mentions to Dan Burn. Again, less expensive signing, usually dependable, always available type of player. And he scored one of the decisive goals in the cup final as well. So you've got to give Dan Burn, like you said, he carries the club literally, not only on his heart, but he carries it on his sleeve. And every tackle he makes, it's like scoring a goal for Dan. Sandro Tonali, despite the early issues, the ban, and obviously him settling in, he has become that integral part of that midfield structure. And I think that partnership that we are starting to see now with him and Bruno, and like I say, I have to also give a little bit of a mention out to J7, who has been remodeled into a midfielder, even though he's not the technical player.
Plus he didn't sign him.
Exactly. But I mean, you've got to look at him and you've got to say, with that 3 in that group, it is hard to find a midfield 3 that could outperform them. So they're my 5, and obviously honourable mentions. And I was going to put in Anthony Gordon because when he first come, I expected to see that first full season all the way. And, it doesn't matter how many times I put his name on that list, I crossed it off as well, because he has not been the same player from what we signed. And as much as I thought he was going to be that XG going forward to take us to that next level, he's been a bit of a failure for me, unfortunately, over the last 18 months. So,
with Gordon, he definitely improved when we signed him.
Absolutely.
Because that second, so his first full season, he won Northeast Player of the Year, Journalist Player of the Year, Players Player of the Year, Fans Player of the Year. So, he was outstanding that second season. And then, through no fault of his own, his head was turned because the club tried to, he didn't make any waves about wanting to go. It was the club that offered him. And of course, then he was made aware of that, and naturally that kind of knocked him back a bit. I don't know necessarily that it should have done, but it did. And also by then he had played football non-stop for 3 years. He'd never had a summer break because he'd been playing for the England under 21s every time, when they won the Euros and that. So, there were reasons, if you like, for the drop-off. Not all his fault. But I'm not going to totally excuse him.
When I'm going to jump out and jump back in again. So do the comments because my camera's just gone bang. So I'll be back in a second, guys.
Yeah. I've got some stars here. Well, let's have a look here. Who's this? Oh, Mealsby, I totally agree when Tripp's natural leader also took the unofficial captain from Lascelles and led the way. That's absolutely right. What's Chris the American Mark saying? Tenali Bonon as the pick of the signings. Kevin Bell is saying, difficult with Tenali. He's only really played for 12 to 15 months of the 4 years. But agree, if he carries on, he'll be the best we've ever had. Well, that's why I had him just at number 3. If he stays for a long period of time, we'll all be happy. Would agree about Tenali, what a player, but was not here at the important, crucial time. Trips and Bruno had to drag us, and Dan Burn had to drag us out of relegation. Honestly, he would, this is Mealby, honestly, he would put Gordon in the top 5. He had 2 incredible seasons with us, got us the Champions League. Can't leave Isaac out. Isaac, oh, the rat. Wash my mouth out. Can't leave the rat out. The rat has been more important. Shut up, man. Be objective for once, old man. Well, he might as well be in the studio, mightn't he? He doesn't deserve to be on any our lists, by the way. He disrespected us all. Goodbye, the rat. The rat was half a good player. If he didn't get the service, he was meh. Plus, injured a lot. Absolutely, Geordie Dan. Totally agree about Bruno Gary. Yeah, good man. Borky, what's Borky got to say? But where we were when we signed them was not the question. It's who's the best player. Well, that's true, but you still got to take those conditions into account, I think.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know what happened there. It just wouldn't reconnect.
Have we not spent the Isaac money on
Voltamada
and Wissa? Yeah, but we had that money anyway. Even if we hadn't sold Wissa, I'd calculate we had £150 million to spend.
What is going on here? What is my bloody thing going off all the time?
All right, Chris's top 5 in order are Tenali, the Rat, Bruno, Trips, and Hall. And I've got his worst 5 there, which we'll get into. And a few disappointments as well. But meanwhile, back at the ranch, sorry, were you interrupted before you were interrupted technically?
No. I'd done my list, matey. It was like I say, I don't know what's the matter with this camera, but sometimes it just throws my whole computer.
Well, you will touch that computer.
I slap my hands up here. It's like, no.
Literally touch it. Yeah. And off it goes.
In actual fact, I've got a Bluetooth keyboard now because my pad at the top, and me and Chris was doing the watch along the other day, and I must have just brushed the top of my pad, leaning forward with my elbow, and all of a sudden I transitioned the live match onto the bloody screen, and I'm like, oh my God. And unfortunately, I can't take it off with my... So I'm trying desperately to move. It was a nightmare, but Chris sorted me out, bless him. But I mean, it is totally interesting how people see, the top tiers. And, I've been looking while, on my TV in front of me here, the people saying about like the Isaac scenario. And listen, there's going to be a lot of ill feeling about Isaac. I understand that. But without his contribution and them goals, those 2 seasons, we wouldn't have reached the heady heights that we did. And I think people often, you have to take that emotion away from you and just look at what he gave you. Yeah, he was a sick note at times, and like I say, he was lightweight. But the money that we got for him in the end doubled his value. isn't for a poor player. You know, when the likes of Liverpool come in for a player, they're obviously buying a talent. And like I say, you can look at it from both ways. And that's why he was in my top 5. And I look at it because of what he's achieved for Newcastle and where he's driven us, and in his goal-getting ways, if you like. And that's why I put these people in the side. And like I said, I've got a couple of strange ones in my worst team, the worst 5, if you like. And I don't think everybody will agree with me.
Well, the worst, without a shred of a doubt, has got to be Vlachodimos.
Yeah.
Because not only did we have to pay way over the top for him, by all accounts, he's on the books at £27 million, which in effect means we only got £18 million for Elliot Anderson. You know, it suited both clubs because of the way the transfers were worked. It suited both clubs for PSR purposes. But in terms of that we've paid £27 million for a not top-tier goalkeeper, and it cost us Elliot Anderson into the bargain, is for me crackers.
Did you do Chris's?
No, I've got his worst.
There you go.
Yeah, I did Chris's.
Oh, you did his top
Chris's
5.
Top
Right, got
5, yeah.
Super.
And his worst 5.
Yeah, we'll do Chris's worst 5.
Yeah, Chris's worst 5 are Target, Lloyd Kelly, Chris Wood, Ruddy, and Vlachodimos.
Yeah.
So if we take those one by one, Target for me is nowhere near one of the worst buys, because we signed him permanently after he'd done a tremendous job for us, instrumental in keeping us up. And who was to know that when he got injured the following season, Dan Burn would move to left back, and we would end up with the best defence in the country, which was never going to be changed mid-season. So when he regained his fitness, he was out the team and couldn't get back in. Simultaneous to which was signed a very, very young Lewis Hall that people thought would wasted our money on then, and turned out to be one of the best buys. You know, honourable mention for him in the best buys, but with injuries and slow start. Some people would argue not necessarily slow start through his own fault, but I would argue otherwise. He would be up there with the best buys. If you look at the team we can have going forward, with Hall, Livramento, Chow, and Botman at the back. We've got Bruno in his prime, Tonali not even in his prime. You know, the third place there currently with J7, which I'm quite happy about. But, you know, if we can get a younger J7, that's us sorted there. And then we've got a young Alanga, a young Gordon, and a young Voltemada up front. So going forward, when we bought Livramento and Hall that summer, and everybody said, what we're doing spending, 70 million or whatever it was on, albeit Hall was at the time was alone with a option to buy. People were saying, what the hell are we doing that? We need to strengthen the actual first team squad. Me included, by the way. That's exactly what I was saying. But my God, that's proven to be a shrewd investment now. Yeah.
Couple here. Balky has put down Target, Wood, Kelly, Ramsey, Wissa worst signings.
Well, certainly to date, paying 55 million for somebody who's never kicked the ball for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by all accounts now, unlikely to do so until January.
Geordie Dan has put Vlachodimos target Willock shouldn't be in there because it was before.
Well, I was going to say Eddie didn't buy Willock.
And again, I have to question Kowal because Kowal was brought in for more future rather than the first 11. I'm looking, for me personally, I was looking more for players that have been bought for the first team that just haven't performed, if you like.
Well, they're few and far between, I tell you.
Well, there is, but like I said, there's a couple on there. Even though I've argumented for the reason for signing, I should say, you have to question why we signed. And especially on the contract that they were on. And I must admit, it's an interesting one. Obviously, Oddie has to go to it, and we know the reasons why with the PSR issues and everything else. Eddie didn't want to take the points; he wanted just to get rid of that. And I mean, like 0 game time if you look at it, apart from the whole game. He's not really featured in any part of the team, and it's very little return for a £20+ million player. And obviously now they talk about they're looking at getting him off the books for €5 million. I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of money you could lose on this player if that happens.
Well, you cannot sell him. It's simple as that.
Well, you shouldn't sell him. You should just keep him out on loan, even if they're contributing a certain percentage off his wages. The other one, obviously, was John Ruddy, and like I say, I've argued the for the reasons, with him being a free agent and everything else.
He's saying in £9,000 a week.
£9,000 a week. He's costed us nothing, and obviously he has that behind the scenes type of camaraderie, which Eddie likes from players. But I just couldn't understand, when you look at squad depth. I think it was
you that broke that news first, wasn't it? Because you'd heard it from your pal down there.
Down there, yeah, exactly. And like I said, it was a big shock to me when I heard it, and I thought it was BS. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think there was much ammunition behind it. And then obviously when he did come through the door, I was at a loss when you've already got so many keepers on the books anyway that weren't getting the game time or the recognition, if you like, as being part of that squad. I knew there was a couple, obviously, on the verge of going anyway, but I just couldn't understand the signing. It didn't make any sense to me, apart from if he was coming in as a player coach, and he never had that title as player coach. You know what I mean? Even though, like I say, you saw him in training. He seems to be very fit for his age and everything else. Still thinking it was a scratch of the head moment for me. And like I say, when he was brought in for squad depth, and that was the reasons why he was brought in. When you've already got so many keepers on the bench, it didn't make any sense to me. My third one, and again, I suppose this is where people are going to question my rationale, is Harvey Barnes. And again, I said at the outset, the trouble is with Harvey Barnes, watching him from days gone by, you just never know what Harvey Barnes is going to turn up. £38 million was a bit of an outlay for me on a player of his ability. And like I said, at the end of the day, he has proven to be a winner at times from the bench. And unfortunately, he's had some strange injuries with the tap toe injury that when he ruptured the tendon underneath the big toe. He's just an inconsistent. He has an inconsistent impact. Even though people were arguing against my thoughts, if you like, about him having or needing game time. Even when he's had a run of games, when you compare him to the price that we paid for him, I just don't think it's a justified fee. If I'm honest with you. My fourth one, again, William Asula. It's a smaller fee when it comes to expectations, and it was a gamble because he came in as a number 3 striker at the time we bought him, and that to me was where I suppose raised the ceiling, right?
And he came, by the way, he came in at number 3 when the number 2 was, an injury waiting to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I said it was a massive gamble for me. Even though, you talk about limited opportunities, mixed reviews from a lot of people. I've seen a different player in him over the last couple of games, and I hope that continues because I'm hoping he's turned a corner now.
Well, you've got it could turn out to be a very shrewd investment if we can get 30 million plus off Frankfurt.
Yeah, Frankfurt, absolutely. And again, we look at some people say, like, Jason Tindall was the one who pushed the button on this one. Without too much scouting, I believe. It was a gamble from what he'd seen and some of the information that he'd heard in the background. So it was more a Jason Tindall thought process with this one. But for me, for a lad of his age, should be showing a lot more promise. Like I say, a very small outlay. I understand all that, but when he is number 2. Now, behind the scenes, I'm expecting a little bit more. And like I said, I looked at Sean Neve last night, and I think Sean Neve is probably further advanced than Asula at the minute when it comes to. Yeah, I do. So, like I say, when Neve,
what I would say about Neve is when he's had his very limited opportunities here, he's done absolutely nothing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I said it's men against boys.
And so doing it in the under-21s and doing it in the first team are two entirely different animals.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And like I said, that's why, it'd be hard for Sean Neve to step up. But
how old is he now?
Sean Neve, is he 19? 19?
Oh, well, that's time, I suppose.
That's what I'm saying. When I look at where Sean Neve
all
is
I would
now,
say is, and it's always cited, of course, you can look at the likes of, Michael Owen and, at 19, they were knocking doors out of windows kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's what I said. When I look at the likes of Asula at 23, nearly 24, getting the minutes that he's getting, and like I say, Sean Neve getting no minutes, really, apart from the odd fleeting moments pre-season. Yeah. And again, if you made the viewpoint of it was 2 different teams as well. So again, you can only work on the type of service that you're going to get. I think Sean Neve in this team may get and show a lot more than what he's shown so far. He's
Neve,
well.
Like Asula, to be fair to Asula, to give Asula, a kind of semi-excuse is that generally when they are being brought on, they're like the 3rd, 4th, or 5th sub being brought on. So by then, the engine room of the team has already been depleted, with the top players being subbed. So you've kind of got that as well. They aren't going to get the same kind of services as a starting centre forward or striker would get.
Yeah. What's name just saying he's only 22? I apologise if that's the case. I thought he was 23. I'm just having a quick look to see if I don't know why I thought
October,
he was 23.
I think, for Rasul.
Oh, you're right. He's 21-year-old. So he was born in 2003. So yeah, 22. Well spotted. Apologies. Thanks for that one. To kind of phrase. It's like I say. For me, I just think it was just a poor boy for me at the time. And like I say, especially when we knew Wilson wasn't going to be fit already for the entire season. And again, we knew that Isaac was also one of those players that wasn't great. So yeah, I mean, like I say, I just think there was better players out there for less price. And somebody had put in there, just think we could have had Ekatike. I think it was Niall at the same time when we bought Asula. So yeah, I think there was definitely other places we could have.
PSR that then.
Yeah. And my 5th, again, another striker was Chris Wood. It was a big signing from Burnley.
Yeah.
And when you look at what we paid for him, which it wasn't a great deal of money, but again, when you look at what he did for
I
other
keep
teams,
hearing this narrative. He did a job for us. For me, he did not. He was rubbish for us.
Yeah, I mean, he struggled to hit the barn door for Newcastle, and I think that is the problem. Players in position. You look at his contribution. You know what I mean? Critics say his goal output had been underwhelming relative to expectation, and I think when you look at a lot of his information in a Newcastle shirt,
it was poor.
It was very poor. His goal getting wasn't great at all, and obviously, you've got to look at. You could put a number of players in this role. I mean, people have put Matt Targett. He had a great season at the first when he came on board on the loan, but unfortunately, I don't think he's at that level anymore. So again, I am not one of these players that wouldn't, one of these people, I should say, that wouldn't look at the likes of Matt Targett. Was he the worst? Well, he's certainly in that category. So again, a mention about that. And again, you think of the value that we got him for. And the money that we're having to outlay on him, and now he's out on loan, and you start thinking to yourself, well, if we're having to pay that type of wage to a player that can't get into this team, it's a poor signing. It really is a poor signing. So, like I say, there's definitely people in there that I haven't mentioned, that I could have mentioned, and that's what I'm saying. And like if you went down the roads of the likes of Kowal or anything else, I mean, even for me, especially right side, I actually said, I wasn't very happy.
I agree, because I'm not sort of counting Asula simply because. These are players, and Kual, there were players that were bought for the future. Not for now, but I would certainly have Barnes in there. He's flattered to deceive a lot. And the next one will really surprise you, I think. And that's Alanga.
Well, like I say, he's not blew my frock up yet.
Because for what we've paid for him, and we bought him to be first team ready, and I have a real worry. Pace to burn, no doubt about it, but does he know how to use it? And I have a real worry that very first game against Villa, when he got put through, should have scored, and that could have been floodgates open. And I don't know whether that's knocked his confidence ever since, but it reminds me very much of when we're saying John Dahl Thomason.
Yeah, I'm going to say John Dahl.
And in the first game of the season debut, put through, open goal, blew it, and we thought, bloody hell, what are we saying here? And after that, he just never did anything for us to speak of. Left and did brilliant elsewhere. And could that
I'm in
be
the same
case?
I said from the outset with Alanga, didn't I? I was unsure.
Yeah, well, I kind of differed with you there because I've always been a champion of Alanga. But as I say, I'm struggling to find 5 worst buys. And if, put it this way, if I've got Barnes and Alanga in there, that shows how difficult it is to pick a worst 5, because by and large, we have been fantastic in our recruitment.
And I to some degree, I have to agree with you. But it's like, for me, I am in the same vein as what the lads are talking in the chat. I just found it. We look at Voltamardi, you see, now, because he's had the same game time, if you like. Well, I mean, Elanga's had more game time. But, I mean, some players will just come and do what they do well. Yeah? Other players, it will take them a time to settle, because in their mindset, they've still got a way of playing. Now, like I said before, under Eddie Howe, Elanga is a rabbit in headlights at times. He doesn't know what position to play, whether to drop in or stay high. So it will take time for him to adjust. And I hope, and I've said it from start, day one. If Elanga proves me wrong, it's good news for Newcastle. But like I say, if you're spending that type of money, you're expecting the lad to shine. But then you look at Wirtz, who cost 116 million. And has he shined at Liverpool so far? No, he hasn't. So, like I said, at the end of the day, we've still got to allow these lads to do the job that we've bought them to do. And fingers crossed, he does come true. Right then, let's call it a day because we've done an hour and a half. And like I say, anything else from yourself, Win, before we?
No, I think that's it. Good? There's very little news out. Never is really when it's international.
Fingers crossed, nobody gets
international
injured.
Break, no window coming up. So that's kept going nicely.
Indeed. Thank you all again for joining us for this, like I say, quiet Thursday. And you know what they say? No news is good news. So may it continue. We're back with you at 7:15 tonight. And I believe Chris is on 9:30. He's probably not good.
Yeah, we're doing a late one
a late one after the match.
The match.
So probably just going to overlap slightly. So what we'll do is we'll end the match and then jump straight on to Chris and Wynn's spiel. So come and join us for the England watch along 7:15 until the end. That's all I'm going to say. But like I say, thank you so much, one and all, for joining us through today. And if you can, just before you go, don't forget to smash that like button. Ring the bell.
Smash the likes, folks.
Subscribe.
Share. 21 more to get to 100. Let's see if we can get to 100.
Yeah, it's been an enjoyable one. And like I say, we are Liverpool becoming the new Chelsea, says Geordie Dan. Yeah, let's see what happens in the future because they aren't really hitting their high notes as we expected.
No, they've been very, very fortunate first few games.
First few games, indeed. Certainly could be nowhere near the
against
top.
Us.
Yeah, exactly. So again, until much later on, it's a goodbye from him.
And it's a goodbye from him. And how are the lads?
Lassies and bands. See you later.
Ciao, ciao.